Hey there. This is Dr. Pam Perry. This is Black Speakers Network and Speakers Magazine every second Saturday for the last 7 years or so. We have been doing our cover reveal. You kind of know who's on the cover, but when we say cover reveal, we kind of dig in deep into the issues. So Allison Vaughn is our cover, but this is a special Saturday because May is so springtimey, right? But it's also National Small Business Month. And just to give you a little bit about what that all means, we're all in business. Small Business Month is an annual event that the U.S. takes place every May. Is designated by the SBA, which stands for Small Business Administration. What is a small business? According to the government, a small business is any company that has less than, I think it's 100 employees. So a lot of businesses fall into this category, but it's time we're going to celebrate the contributions of small businesses and entrepreneurs like Allison Vaughn, their contributions to the economy. Actually, most of our economy is run by the sweat of the brow of small businesses, and it really helps with job creation. And really, this month long that SBA does with the observance of it really just provides more opportunities for people who are thinking about going into business or encouraging people who are in business. So, one of the things that I like to really talk about is that speakers really need to understand the mindset of a CEO. They need to understand the mindset of business. And it's great to have a message, tell your story. Storytelling is cool. I want to tell my truth. I want to speak. That's all good, but it needs to make business sense. If it don't make money, it don't make sense, right? So we want to make sure that speakers understand the connection between a business being paid to speak or either speaking on stages to be more visible and people can hear you more. Me as a publicist, I consider media the things that will promote you, obviously radio, television, newspapers, obviously magazines, social media, but also the stage is also that other part of visibility that is part of your strategy. So when you're speaking one on one, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. So the more people that know you and you're speaking and they like you, they meet you in person and they trust you. It really shortens the sales cycle. So it shortens the sales cycle when you're a speaker. And if you have a message that's worth listening to, that also helps as well. So, Speakers Magazine, really, what we do is we promote those speakers that have the message. The magazine at speakersmagazine.com, thank you, Monique, is where we are. And we're going to talk a little bit, dive into the issue, but we're going to talk a little bit about Small Business Month and where we are as a community in terms of where we are in terms of this administration in the United States. So we'll talk about Juneteenth, which is coming up. That is on the back cover here. I believe JJ Conway is there, and we'll talk about that. But Allison started her business. The heartbeat of her business was to help people to solve a problem. And the problem that she saw is that people need to get a job, but if they because they need money. And because they need money in order to get a job, they may not have the right outfit or the right presentation materials in order to go get a job. It's kind of like which comes first. You get a suit, go buy a new suit and get a job, but like you need the money to buy the new suit. So her company for 25 years within the Detroit area has been providing free clothing to people who were going on job interviews. It's called Jackets for Jobs. You know how you have to suit up to boot up. So she was providing jackets for jobs. So I'm going to show you what a successful business looks like. Our producer, Monet, is going to boot up the video, but she had an event in March that talked about her career as a small business and her speaker was Cynthia Bailey, who's also a model and icon. You may know her from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Yes, that's Cynthia Bailey. So we're going to boot that up right now and show the tape. All right.
Our hands together and let's celebrate Allison Vaughn for 25 years of dedicated service to our community.
I am on cloud nine to celebrate 25 years of doing workforce development. I can't believe that Jackets for Jobs is 25 years and that we've helped over 40,000 people.
I am honored, delighted, and grateful to stand before you because 22 years ago, I had no idea how my life was going to turn out. I'm one of the 40,000. I want to thank Allison Vaughn. I'm extremely grateful that she saw a need and she went to fulfill it.
I love how Miss Betty showed up matching. Come on, Betty, give it to him. She wasn't playing. And that's how important dressing is, just little things like that. In my role as the style guru, it's all about clothing and appearance and how you dress. And that's why Jackets for Jobs is so important.
My name is Lauren Hicks, and I am the founder of Michigan Fashion Week. And I want to first congratulate Miss Allison Vaughn for 25 years of service.
I want to congratulate Allison and Jackets for Jobs on their 25 year of dressing workplace success.
Congratulations, Karen. On behalf of Jackets for Jobs and our incredible sponsors, the Detroit Pistons, for your outstanding contributions to the community and support to Jackets for Jobs.
My name is Nin Bailey, and want to thank Allison Vaughn and Jackets for Jobs. I was a victim of domestic violence. I walked into Jackets for Jobs 20 years ago. Jackets for Jobs helped me build my self-esteem.
Just by the name Dennis Archer Jr., you know his father was the mayor of Detroit. Every mayor has donated a suit to Jackets for Jobs. Mr. Archer was one of the first ones that said, yes, I believe in your mission, and here's a suit.
Allison is a hero. The four people that spoke earlier, gave the testimonials, are superheroes. By us contributing clothes and money and resources and time to what Allison has been doing now for 25 years is very.
I want to thank God for Allison Vaughn and Jackets for Jobs. Served 29 years in prison. I became the leader of the NAACP inside. And we was able to help hundreds of people get out of prison. We was able to send hundreds of people to Jackets for Jobs. So thank God for Jackets for Jobs and organizations like this.
As we celebrate the 25th anniversary of Jackets for Jobs. To my sister and friend, Allison Vaughn Smith, whom I witnessed birth, nurture, and grow her dream into this reality. I am humbled by my task this morning to introduce to some and merely highlight to others this remarkable woman who will address us. Cynthia Bailey, at 5 foot 10 inches, yes, it's hard to miss this statuesque, gorgeous supermodel. Signing with one of the largest agencies, the Wilhelmina Models, she soon landed on the cover of Essence magazine.
My grandmother was very instrumental and just helped shape me. But I was the one kid that always kind of followed her around. Why I was so impressed with her is because she was like my first experience of really meeting and being able to touch a female entrepreneur. Like she had like 100 jobs. She told me that as long as I was willing to work hard for it, I could have anything I wanted in this world. I was the first African-American homecoming queen. So, thank you. And as honored as I was, once I achieved that, it just kind of lit a fire under me to think, well, if I could be this, if people see me in this way, if I could have this type of influence over a school, then maybe there's more that I can do in this world. And I went on to compete in a homecoming queen pageant in Atlanta, oddly enough, and I did not win. One of the judges was a model scout from Wilhelmina Models in New York City. She approached me and asked me would I be interested in. So who am I to not be anything other than my authentic self, because this is God. I came from very humble beginnings, so I'm always really just working hard to make sure in my journey of life, with all the different jobs and all the different things that I have going on, that all the people that I come in contact with, that I treat people with kindness and love. So for me, it's like building relationships with people, treating people right, knowing that I could be replaced tomorrow. I'm at an age where I'm constantly reinventing myself to stay relevant. But at the end of the day, you know, I got a daughter, I got a mama that would get me right together, a sister. And I know at the end of the day, you know, the entertainment industry is great for all of us to sit and be entertained, but in a lot of ways, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, it's not real. Like, what's real is God and you, and how you navigate through life and the legacy that you want to leave.
All right, so that was Allison Vaughn's event, her 25-year celebration that she did. It was at Motor City Casino. They weren't gambling, they just had the event there. And Cynthia Bailey was there. And Allison, congratulations on your 25 years. We have a special guest that is going to be joining us, but if she's not, we're going to go right to the magazine and go through it page by page, like I promised. There we go. So Allison was on the cover this month, and one of the things about Allison is that she's always been a fashion diva. So you can see this bright yellow. I'm trying to match with her today. She's not with us actually today. That's why we have the video, because she had some personal business to attend to today, funeral. But we did want to continue today for National Small Business Month and celebrate her success of her business. So you can see that she's also an author. Her book is called Miss Gold Digger, not gold, Gold Digger. Her book is called Miss Gold because she's has goals and she digs and she accomplishes her goals. That's available on Amazon. And she's also a speaker. So I will say this about Allison: since she's been on the cover, she has been blowing up online. And Monet, kind of bring it up a little bit further. A little, yeah. So she's been blowing up online. In her inbox on Facebook, she has had at least 4 requests for speaking, one all over the country. She's been traveling. She's been doing a lot of speaking because of the recognition of being on Speakers Magazine. So speakersmagazine.com is where you can go to actually read all of the information about that. Yeah, visit speakersmagazine.com. But one of the things of why I created Speakers Magazine was to give people a showcase of their skills, their talents, for people to become aware of them, for people to, you know, the buzz to be going. And so because the buzz has been going, one of the reasons is that she says, "Are you a speaking agent?" She says, "I'm getting so many requests for speaking." And it's that is what the purpose of it is. Not just being on the cover, but also being on the inside and being positioned. When people Google you, they'll see you positioned in Speakers Magazine. That is one of the main things as well. That's good. Yeah, that's perfect like that. I was just going to say, like, maybe bring that down. Yeah, that's fine. Monet. And the thing of it is that we're celebrating Small Business Month. Her event was in um, March. Her marking 25 years for Jackets for Jobs. For Jackets for Jobs. And the other thing is that with her skill set of being an image consultant, certified image consultant, that's where she saw a need or a gap of people who need to present themselves in the best way, especially when they're applying for a job interview. So that's where her contract with the city of Detroit for 25 years is really providing free clothing for that. And the sponsor of that is also TJ Maxx as well. So celebration to Allison Vaughn. And let's flip to the next page here and talk a little bit about why, again, really visibility is so important. Like I said, Allison has been in celebrity news. She's been in the Women's Journal. She's been in the Michigan Chronicle, Detroit Free Press, Detroit News. She was on Channel 7, Channel 4, Channel Fox News. She's been everywhere. But the whole point of being in Speakers Magazine is it's your tool. It is the media tool that you use to position you to really get visibility. I help you with media uh, pitching, really your conference, promoting your conference, which we'll talk about that as well. There's a conference coming up in June. We'll get to that at the end. Really keynotes. When people come to me, a lot of times they'll say, "Well, Pam, do you have anybody you could recommend for a speaker?" Depending on what it is, and I will say, "Yes, let's go to this issue," or I'll actually give them a copy of the magazine and say, "Hey, this is a speaker that you should consider," that kind of thing. So really in networking, because I'm a part of NABJ. I'll be speaking at their conference in Cleveland this August. A lot of the Black journalists, National Association of Black Journalists, are friends of mine. So a lot of times they're looking for SMEs, subject matter experts, and I can provide that because I have a roster full, a whole website full of speakers that have been in Speakers Magazine. So they know to come to me, and obviously we do the outreach as well. And so we do PR placements. If you go to pamperrypr.com/PR success, you'll see all the stories of besides Speakers Magazine, but they're in other magazines as well, whether it's on ERU Web or USA Wire, Vocal Media, Newsbreak, tons and tons of media exposure. So that's one of the things too that why I started Speakers Magazine, and specifically want to give more visibility to African American speakers, to Black speakers, those who typically aren't always in the limelight, those that are what they call quote unquote the marginalized communities. But that's really my calling, to really help bolster our community. We're really good, people um, know that we have a lot of Black preachers. I've worked with TD Jakes and I've worked with Dr. Cindy Trim, and preachers, they have a pulpit, so they really have a lot more shine. And that's where I really started working with a lot of ministers, but people who aren't necessarily ministers, that are business people, also speak as well. So that's where the Speakers Magazine. The other thing, the Speak Sell Shine, that happens in DC. Black Speakers Network is in Baltimore, so it's probably in that area, part of the the area of the country. But at Howard University, every fall, we do an event called Speak, Sell, Shine. And it's basically like an intensive for speakers. We actually provide real training for speakers. We get them in front of the media. We have dinner at the press club. This year, we're going to, there we go. And then we're actually going to be doing awards program this year as well. But it's for them to do a TED Talk style video that they can use as their speaker reel. So it's professionally done. So not only are they getting the assets of photography, which they do a brand shoot at the Howard Theater, which is beautiful. I love the Howard Theater, but they also get video done. They get training. It's 2 days. Speaksellshine.com is where people will actually go for that as well. And we're going to bring up our guest right now, but um, just know that in this issue is Carolyn Brooks is here. There she is. Carolyn Brooks is in this issue. Dr. Portia Lockett, Kelly Garrett, the Allison, obviously Hester Wheeler is there. And there's an article in here from Melinda Emerson, because it is National Small Business Month, and she is a small biz lady. So we have an article in there from Melinda that talks about 10 tips to become a sought after professional speaker. Dr. Pirro is in here. He's from Michigan State, which is where Allison hails from, and also Sharice McAdoo and Shayla Atkins. So let's kind of put a pin in this, Monet, and then bring up JJ Conway. Hey there. Hey there. How are you?
Hello. Hello. I am so inspired by the progress that has been made with the clothing. I was just watching the video earlier, and I mean, your May cover girl is doing big things.
Yes.
And my heart really melted to see one of us making a difference for more of us.
Yes. And that is she calls it her ministry. She calls it her ministry. You think that, oh, okay, well, she's just like an image consultant and she just wants to look good. No, she's helping people position themselves by looking good, getting jobs. And she does also a workplace development as well. So that's part of it as well. So it's not just the clothes, but she actually takes them through interviewing skills and giving them workshops and that kind of offer free. So it's a nonprofit, but the business has been around for 25 years and she's done very, very well.
25 years.
Yes, yes, yes. That is it. That is it. So JJ is our so we're talking about an event that happened in March. Now we're going to be talking about an event that's coming up in June. But it's really all tied together in terms of Small Business Month and really empowering our community about wealth building strategies, whether it's getting a grant or getting funding or really just bootstrapping it yourself, but you still have to have good credit anyway. But really, the whole thing about Juneteenth that JJ is talking about is provide resources to help you be wealthy, prosper, and create legacy wealth. That is the overarching point of Black Speakers Network and all the overall arching thing of why we're doing this magazine, that we can make sure that we are setting ourselves up for legacy wealth. So JJ, kind of give us the vision a little bit. Oh, and I also say that she is a lieutenant colonel. Okay, retired. Okay. And let's give a little bit of your backstory too about where that is, because you not too many lieutenant colonels, all right? Okay. So give us that backstory.
Well, and after a brief reprieve, after what happened with George Floyd and other similar cases, where all of a sudden everyone knee-jerk reactioned and they were promoting people of color left and right, we are seeing it go, the pendulum swing back the other way in the military, and people of color are being forced to retire or adverse action taken against someone with a sparkling clean record all of a sudden has gotten in trouble somehow. So I think it's more important now than ever that we talk about the issues that are talked about in Juneteenth legacy. And for those who, like me, even as a Black person until about 8 or 9 years ago, did not realize the gravity of Juneteenth, people in Texas were enslaved 2.5 years longer than they should have. And when I was taught it in the history books, the thinking was, oh, well, it's 6 months later because, it's June instead of New Year's. There was no internet back then. It probably took a while for the word to spread. No, it was intentional. And a lot of what we suffer in today's world is intentional. However, it doesn't mean that by our actions we can't overcome it. The thing is we have to understand what we're dealing with, and then we have to work together to overcome, to open the doors for each other, to provide the funding for each other, and to lift each other up in a world that systemically, as a fabric of our society, is still trying to push us down.
I like what you said about working together. So that has been something that your keynote speaker has been preaching for a long time, Uncle George Fraser. And he always says, listen, nobody is coming to save you. No one is coming to save us. We have got to save ourselves. And he's been doing that longer than 25 years, obviously. Dr. George Fraser is going to be your keynote speaker at your Juneteenth event, which is on the back of Speakers Magazine, by the way, so that people can go to JuneteenthLegacy.com. And you have other speakers as well. You had, I think last year you had Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I want to say that you're going to be the cover of June. Obviously, you're our June, always our cover girl for June, because you're doing the Juneteenth Legacy. But tell us a little bit about your background too, that it's so fascinating because physics is your area. And so you were the first African American or first woman in that area?
According to the Air Force, I'm the first Black to be a physicist in the Air Force. Now, the other services don't have physicists, so I claim them all, even though my paperwork says Air Force. And the year I graduated, another woman graduated ahead of me in the class. And so I think we together were the first women to be physicists.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's so poignant for me because, as many people know, I've written many books and I love to write, even though my command of the English language is nowhere near as good as my command of numbers. But But when they told me blacks can't do physics, and I was choosing between writing or physics or chemistry, something else I was good at but I didn't like, I was like, oh, you're not going to tell me what I can't do. And so not only did I graduate as a physics major, president of the physics club, I went on to do physics in the Air Force for 23 years. And despite incredible opposition for about the first 19 years of my career, I still went on to chair some of our nation's highest technical committees. And so I had the say on what gets to go into the missile silos. And I chaired our nuclear threats community of interest and among all the intel agencies and different things like that, that people just did not expect that we could have black people do. And a lot of times we think that the history of our freedom is so old history, ancient history. But when I went into my doctoral studies on leadership, I noticed that there was a 1991 report that the Department of Defense had come out and said that blacks were not capable of higher level thought. So we weren't capable of thinking in the math or the engineering. And I'm thinking that, do you not know there are organizations like National Society of Black Physicists and the National Society of Black Engineers? Those
Yeah.
were all out by 1991, but I
Yes.
didn't know that as a college student. As a college student who in high school marched and pushed petitions to end apartheid and free Mandela, all I knew is my parents grew up in the military. My parents grew us up in the military, and on the military bases in American overseas, you are Americans. You're not black, white, red, yellow, anything else. You're Americans. And so with that mindset, I wasn't going to take no for an answer when it was something I knew I could do. And I take that approach to everything else in life. And so for me, Juneteenth is even more personal, because not only did I see that systemic racism in the military, but I also saw a lot of spaces where people did not realize I was black, and the way that they treated other black people until I called folks on it. So one time I had a job interview and they said, well, what is one of the things that you are most proud of? And I thought, I can't tell them what I'm most proud of, because what I'm most proud of is how many racists I've gotten fired. Because they thought they could do what they wanted to do, and I was just going to go along with it. Well, I'm not going to do that. And so I use process, and I apply process to all those things. And so when I came home from deployment and found my house sold, my stuff thrown out, $800,000 of debt, I didn't know what I was going to do. But I took that scientific mindset and applied that process to learning how to learn about money. And what I discovered about money is there's a lot, when I went to learn about money and I got my financial certificate, I found there's a lot of shenanigans that are used to keep the rich wealthy and the poor poor. And it's time that we shared this information. And when I set out to share the information, then I discovered there were people like Dr. Fraser, people like Dr. Watkins, people like some of the ladies whose names is escaping me right now, but when I get them, I'll make sure I write them down next time. They've been trying to lift each other up, and they've been trying to get to us. And some of us, myself admitted as a young person, just wasn't listening, because that doesn't me. That was for my grandparents. See, I got it going on now. My career is moving and shaking. I'm doing great things. Yeah, and a lot of us do great things, and then we hit that ceiling where, oh, wait a second, he's a threat. She's a threat. Oh, they uppity now. We got to put them back down in their place. And so that's why this conference is so important to me, because it's where we talk about how to keep pushing forward when everything around you wants to keep you down in what they think is your place.
That is so good. Monet, I'm sorry. Yeah, one of the main things too is that Juneteenth, like you said, 2.5 years after slavery was over, and it was in Texas. Your event is in Texas, and actually, um, it's actually in Fort Worth, Texas. And this other person here, her event is in Texas too. That's in August, right? And we know Texas has its issues politically and that kind of thing. And you were saying that, obviously George Floyd was murdered in Texas. It's like it's a lot going on in Texas, but you're making it right. You're actually doing things to make it right by doing it there. But I want to say that you made this pivot. You said after 2020, besides the pandemic, things that happened, people were marching, the first time all over the world about the racist murder, basically, of George Floyd. But what really was the main spark that said, okay, I was in $800,000, almost $1 million in debt, and I got out. And you could have just kept it moving. This is, this is interesting. I'm out of debt. I'm good. But what made it? What is it about JJ that said, I want to go and help others? I want to make this a movement. And you really made it your ministry. So, what is it that really is the main thing that just said, I've got to tell others, because that's really what you're doing. That's why you're speaking. So what is the calling, I guess you would say, that you got?
Well, my life's purpose is to equip God's people, and I take avenues to do that, whether it's speaking expressly in the ministry circuit, or whether it is reaching out to others who may not know yet that they are God's people. I find it part of so much was given to me, and while I don't, let me rephrase that. I no longer, because when I was younger, I wasted a lot of my earnings helping people who had their hands out, because we made it. We got out of poverty. And we didn't realize that by helping them, we were actually enabling them. So fast forward to having gotten to that realization, this was actually a couple years before George Floyd that I learned the reality of Juneteenth. And that was also when I was converging upon the reality that I probably wasn't going to go further in my military career. Now, to be honest and to be fair, being a lieutenant colonel as a physicist is a huge achievement, because most physicists, when I chose that career field, topped out at captain, maybe major, but they never made lieutenant colonel, and only a
Wow.
handful ever made it past that. And I knew most of them. There weren't many. And so, but for me, it was like, somebody's got to do something about this. And it's really hard to find people to do something about this when so many of us have our jobs, our livelihood, our health care, and all those things tied up in government services. And now, in order to speak out against this, we have to bite the hand that feeds us. But I
Hmm.
was very confident, between the business that I had already built up in John Maxwell leadership, and with my financial coaching, all of that combined into a financial services group. I was very confident that I could withstand not having Uncle Sam pay my bills anymore. Not to
Mhm.
say I'm not thankful for my disability check. I am, and I'm thankful for my disability health care. Thank you, American people, for my health care, because I need it, especially with all the injuries and all the stuff the government done pumped into us. But I don't have that fear that if I speak on my stage, I'm going to go to work the next day and get fired. And
That
there are
is good.
people who are afraid to share their stories and share what's going on, because they are afraid for their livelihoods. When I did the People Might Like Me project, which was a precursor to June, which was a precursor to the conference growing larger. So we had the Juneteenth conference in a small sessions in Louisiana, and then we
Mhm.
wanted to take it bigger. And we did a project where I interviewed so many people of so many races. And aside from one very brave white woman, anybody who wasn't Black was like, this is my anonymous feedback. Don't use my name. Don't use my voice, because I can't
Mm.
risk the harm to my family. So
Wow.
people know that what's going on in our country is wrong. But we, as especially Black women, we internalize the going wrong, like, I'm not good enough. If I could just work harder, if I could just prove myself, if I could just get, if I could just, no, you could do all the justin you want to do, and they are still going to find ways to hold you down. It's time to figure out how to go around all of that and bust through, but you can't, but indirectly, because the direct is to hold down. It broke my heart in Louisiana. So I'm giving you these pieces. This is the final piece that really led me to say we have to have a conference to talk about this. It broke my heart in Louisiana how many wealthy Black women I met. And it wasn't a whole lot. Maybe about 7 or 8 ladies that I can think of throughout my time in Louisiana, who were incredibly wealthy, owned property, traveled all over the nation presenting their work and speaking and conferences and doing things, and you would never ever know it. And it's not like they were just frugal like I am. Like if you're not paying me to do your brand, I'm not repping your brand. Okay, unless I just happen to like that article of clothing or that purse. But if you are dressed down and frizzled hair and raggedy hat, because that's how you don't attract attention to yourself. so they don't get in your business, so they don't mess with your money, so they don't
Mhm.
slap you with fines, so they don't send the cops over for no good reason, which is what they do. And these ladies warned me, and I didn't listen because I thought I was a special snowflake. And you know what? As soon as my business started to take off in Louisiana, knock, knock, knock on the door.
Wow.
But I've done all these things. I've dotted my I's. I've crossed all my T's. It doesn't matter. They will find a way to put you in your place. And so I'm not, if anybody doesn't know me, I'm not a racist person. I'm a realist. You
Mhm,
know, my
mhm.
family's interracial. And so I just look at what happens. And too many people can't be themselves. Too many wealthy women are pretending to be poor just to survive.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
is so
ridiculous
wrong.
to me. And
That is
I know
wrong.
the circles that we are in the conferences, everybody wants to be bougie, everybody wants the expensive purses and the suits, and they want to show off their wealth. But that wasn't the really wealthy women that I saw. And in my world, they should be able to be who they are, whether they want to carry a nice bag, whether they want to look like they're somebody or not. They shouldn't have to be underground.
Mhm. And that is really you can understand when JJ when she is passionate about something, you can hear the passion in her voice, and it's like she's gonna make a difference. And I wanna say that, you were on the cover and we did the interview, I think it was last year, and my husband heard you speak, and he was like, "That lady," he would say, "she is so anointed in her mission." And he said, not only just you getting out of debt and then becoming like the first lieutenant colonel in the Air Force and with the physicists and all of that, just beyond that, he was like, she is really about it in terms of really helping uncover, tell the truth, helping people open up their eyes, build wealth. Because even if you are and pastors, I know a lot of preachers and things like that, they says the main thing that once people get salvation in the church, the next thing that they really need is money. He said in their churches, it's like they struggle, he says, the pastoral counseling and things like that. He said it all stems from lack of money, lack of resources. Divorces are happening because of lack of money, lack of resources. And it's like pastors are like, "I'm not here to do a financial class." He said, "But what is it that people need to do?" And that's where you kinda come in and you help people bridge that gap so that they're not always, behind the 8 ball every single month, paycheck to paycheck or robbing Peter to pay Paul. But really, Juneteenth is about really empowering people to understand how to manage the money, to really understand what's going on really behind the systemic racism and not to be afraid of things that are happening in your workspace because of what's going on in the administration and just really giving people courage, confidence. The speakers that you have, they're networking. You have George Fraser and you have some other speakers as well. I remember one year you had Dr. Cheryl Wood there as well as one of your speakers. And so tell us a little bit about the event too, because it's actually June 18th through the 20th. Everybody knows that Juneteenth is actually June 19th, but in those days, because you can't put everything all on one day. Can't even do it over 3 days. But kind of give us a little bit about JJ. You know, you by yourself. My husband said, you by yourself can do the conference. He said he would like to hear you all 3 days. He said she is really good. But tell us a little bit about what people can expect at the Juneteenth event.
I am so excited for this event. We move it around from city to city. And I did not know when we picked Fort Worth for 2025 that we were going to be smack dab in the middle of all this history because we didn't know that Juneteenth was going to become a holiday, which has actually caused us trouble finding ways to do the Juneteenth conference on Juneteenth because now it's a day off. But it wasn't when we first started the conference. But we're going to be right there in Fort Worth, which is where the mother of Juneteenth resides, the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal Lee. We're going to spend time at her farm Wednesday as an optional event. We're going to go walk with her Juneteenth morning on her historic walk, detailing it kind of commemorates how she walked from city to city to try to advocate for Juneteenth to become a holiday. And then there's the first ever Freedom Vibes Festival put on by the new National Juneteenth Museum, which is going to be opening soon, but it did not open, but they went ahead and pressed on. You know, the whole issue with the administration, people think it's not that big of a deal, but it impacts all of the funding. The government funding has been cut off. Governor Abbott here in Texas had already cut off DE&I funds as of 2 years ago. No college was allowed to have DE&I programs on the books, and if they did, they lost their Texas funding. So those rights have already been under attack. Well, I didn't know all of that when I picked Fort Worth. I just knew that last year was the year I was supposed to retire from the Air Force, and I was going to be by Fort Worth. So it all happened to converge together, and I'm so thankful. We've got Dr. George Fraser, as you mentioned, kicking us off. We're also going to have Dr. Boyce Watkins said he's going to give us an update. He was our speaker, our keynote 2 years ago in Chicago. And we still don't know if he's going to be in person or virtual yet. So I'm excited about that. I'm like, come, the history is here. This is Fort Worth is the place to be for Juneteenth 2025. And next year we'll be in Tulsa. And after that, we'll be in Kansas City. But Juneteenth in Fort Worth, it was foreordained for us to be in Juneteenth. I mean, in Fort Worth. And so we also have Brother Bedford. I'm super excited to be interviewing him. He runs the Masters of Business Mastermind. And we got some new and up and coming speakers like Tasha Bryant coming in. She's going to be part of our Juneteenth anthology book as well as speaking. And she has got a message to share. I'm not going to spoil it from everybody, but you need to hear some of these up and coming speakers that have really powerful stories. And they are strategically placed to help each of us elevate in some way. It's going to be fantastic. We're also going to see a cattle run. And we're intertwining some of the Freedom Vibes Festival activities with our conference, because even the hotel we found, a Black-owned hotel, they normally do a big Juneteenth blowout. It's the Hotel Dryce. And we're all like, okay, we're going to play nice with each other. And I mean, y'all, I love that. Because they're like, yeah, we have a big blowout every year, but this is bigger, and we're going to all work together. And so they, it's like, okay, where can I plug in? We already made this decision. And interestingly enough, nobody's got the same schedule we've got. So Wednesday, we're going to do optional fun activities. Wednesday nights, our opening reception. Thursday's our main conference and our walk with Opal Lee. And then Friday, if you are a veteran and you can't come to anything else we do, you must come to our Friday morning Black Veterans Brunch, because we talk about the systemic racism in the military that keeps our veterans from acquiring the benefits they worked so hard and are entitled to. So what has happened? Sometimes we think it's our fault, but it's not our fault. Now look, if it's your fault, look, we just gonna own that. But sometimes we have faults, but a lot of this is not our fault. Okay, now I'm not one of these people that's gonna whine, hey, I didn't show up to work at all, and it's their fault for firing me, right? No, I didn't show up to work, but there are hardworking American soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians who gave their life to the military and to the security of our nation. And at the end of their career, systemic bias and racism came in, reared its ugly head, and then took away the benefits that they should have. And so we talk about those issues, and we bring in outside agencies that can help you get back the benefits you deserve.
Wow. That's the first time that I've ever heard a Black veterans kind of a brunch, kind of an event. This is really, really good. And you're just ordained for this, retired lieutenant colonel, bringing people together. Juneteenth Legacy, I put it up on the screen.com. It's in Fort Worth. They can come. You talked about George Fraser, Brother Bedford, but you talked about Boyce Watkins, and a lot of people may not know Boyce Watkins. He has a Black business school. So give us a little bit about why you chose. I know why you chose George. He always has that same mantra: no one's going to come to save us. And Brother Bedford, like you said, masters of business. But talk about Boyce Watkins, of why Boyce Watkins.
From the very first time that I've met Dr. Boyce Watkins, he has never failed to peel back the curtain, peel back the onion, and tell the truth about what's going on. And the reason people like him and Dr. Fraser and Brother Bedford, and there's somebody else that I'm working on, the reason these men and women are so important to me is because they are not afraid. to use their background. And so whereas others have more of a business slant, he has the business school, he also has an economic analysis. It's very few, just like there's very few black physicists and very few black physicists with PhDs, there's very few black financial people with PhDs who actually understand the analysis and can look at a situation and explain what it is when we don't even realize. See, there's a lot in our lives that we don't realize, that when they give you one thing, they take away another. You know, oh, well, we're gonna up these programs, but we're gonna destroy your family. Oh, we're gonna make access for this happen for you, but we're gonna start the war on drugs, which is really prison to pipeline,
Mm.
preschool to prison pipeline. Or this is the one that really gets me as a financial planner. We're gonna open up colleges, and now everybody can go to colleges, but at the same time, behind there, they have deregulated the student loan industry, and so now student loans are siphoning black and brown wealth faster than the next generation can earn it. So
Wow.
from my perspective, it's important to have someone who brings that economic voice. Like, here's the economic games they are playing.
Mhm,
And then
mhm.
here are the pathways to overcome it.
That is it. And people, if you're not familiar with Dr. Boyce Watkins, make sure you watch some of his videos on YouTube as well. And George Fraser, obviously we know, and then Brother Bedford. And part of it, all of them are talking about building up our community, building legacy, building wealth legacy. It's okay for one generation to do well, but it's like, what is two or three generations after us? That's where we really want to make an impact. And it's always too that is interesting too. We're talking about Small Business Month, that the percentage of small businesses that make over six figures a year for black, especially black women, is like point percent. It's not even a whole 1%. Like if like in terms of millions, it's not enough for us to have been here all this time in America, that it should be more. So like you said, it's a lot of things that needs to be talking from a high level area to kind of know what's going on, and then bringing it down so that we can actually get to the issues, you know. And you said something too, JJ, that you said it's a process. I see everything through a process lens. You were at $800,000 in debt and got out of debt without doing bankruptcy, and you said it was a process. And once you realized how to do it, you began teaching others, and you got certified with them, you know, a speaker with John Maxwell and that kind of thing, and leadership, and it just grows from there. And I can see your footsteps, kind of like Allison Vaughn. You know, they're ordered. You know, it's like what you have a gifting for, you then make it so that other people can benefit from. And that's really, really like the main thing with all of the speakers, especially the African American speakers. It's like things happen for a reason, but also too, they happen for us to impact others. So I'm gonna have Monet, if you could bring up the issue again, and we're gonna go through it because there was someone in here as well. I'm gonna take this banner off because I want people to make sure that they are going to be there. Okay, so we can go through the next page here. Uh, yeah, let's skip. Okay, so this one here, and the videos are also embedded in all of the magazine and on speakersmagazine.com as well, because people can actually go there. But this particular page is a picture that talks about the Juneteenth legacy, wealth, and impact that JJ is doing, National Small Business Month, and then Allison Vaughn with Cynthia Bailey. I like what Cynthia Bailey talked about. She said how her grandmother was an entrepreneur and was her biggest encouragement. I did not realize that, you know, for your grandmother to be an entrepreneur, and her grandmother was a person says you could do anything you put your mind to, and she did that was the thing. So uh want to make sure that okay, here we go. So this particular page talks a little bit about if you want to get featured as well on it, you can go to speakersmagazine.com, get featured. We are working on our June issue, which JJ will be the cover on. So if you are really into legacy building and really about wealth and that, this is the issue, because it'll be actually be at the conference as well. The other person talks about finances as well, Dr. Carolyn Brooks, from corporate powerhouse to a confidence coach for women who lead. The thing that Carolyn really does is she helps women in their business, and she's been speaking now for a while. She's got her signature program is called Fearlessly Confident, which is really talking about how her wisdom and her corporate strategy really empowers women to own their voice and own the room. And so I love this thing that Carolyn does. She's a CPA turned certified speaker. So you would definitely love to meet and talk with her too, JJ, because she's Christian. She has a doctorate in Christian leadership and business administration, but she is a CPA, CFE, CGMA. And you probably know what all those are, right? I know what the CPA is, but I was like a CFE. I guess that's certified. What is that? CFE, financial executive, maybe. Not sure what CFE. Oh, I muted your mic. Let's unmute her mic. Unmute. Okay, there it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but I don't know all the acronyms either. I know some of them are financial education and
Yeah,
executive,
financial. Yeah,
but what they
yes.
actually stand for, I'm not quite sure.
Yes, it's financial education. So that's one of the things that Carolyn is in here and she's talking about there, because it's really at a point in time where we do have to really figure out what our assignment is. Obviously, she loved accounting, she was in corporate, but now she's spreading the word, kind of like with JJ, about okay, now it's time to really move from the boardroom, get behind the podium, get in front of the camera, and that's what she's doing now, just helping people being fearlessly confident. So that's Dr. Carolyn Brooks Collins. I love that, love that. And the next page is another person who is taking her video was there as well, is taking their mission and their pain to power, to purpose. Dr. Portia Lockett, she is a message of healing. She's a grief method specialist, and she really helps people get over grief. Her son was tragically killed in 2020, and Azel Benet Lockett Foundation is what she's head of now. She has an event coming up next weekend. And really, Portia is good friends with Allison, and so is Kelly Garrett as well. Both of them are from Metro Detroit area. So they are taking their passion, their mission, and helping others. Kelly was the first African-American mayor in Lathrop Village. She ran for Congress. You can see her video is there as well, but she's a purpose-driven leader, speaker, community champion, all of that. Besides being Mother's Day, which is coming up on Sunday, being a mom and doing all the other things, but we are just like, it's like a calling. I can't explain it. It's like, it's a calling that, and this is why I love what I'm doing, is that people who are called, I'm here to help people that help people. Okay. So people like JJ, helping get her message out there. Allison helping get her message out there. Portia, Kelly, Garrett, they are people who are on the front line speaking, doing the work. But then there's someone behind them that's really telling the media to put the spotlight on these people, or spotlighting them in my own media, or that kind of thing. That is when you know you are mission called. Jeff Brooks is over here. He says, hello, Dr. Pam, and JJ says, sounds like Juneteenth event is going to be lit. That is for sure. It is. That is so true. But read about Dr. Portia there and her events, like I said, is coming up in Detroit at Wayne County Community College District, May 17th. And then Kelly is a purpose-driven leader, and you can read her video there as well. And just a side note, Portia is a Delta and Kelly is a AKA. So they both kind of put that in their bios as well. So you can kind of read it. And the reason why we do the magazine is that when people are looking for speakers, everybody has something that they are really passionate about. And she puts down what her signature things are, her signature talks. So people can use this as a catalog and say, hey, I want this speaker, I want that speaker. The next one is more about Allison with the bright yellow. You can go to the next page with the bright yellow on. And Allison she's holding it Gold Digger, her hashtag Gold Digger, because the name of her book is called Miss Gold Digger. And I remember we were doing the PR for her for the book, and she got to Essence Fest with her book. And she was so excited. I didn't go, but the thing of it is that she really talked about having her first book being at the Essence Festival. and just how many people she got to meet and talk to, and talking about goals and all that kind of thing. So that is, being in business 25 years is a big achievement, but she always talks about being at the Essence Festival and signing her book at the Essence Festival is one of the things that she liked as well. So this whole story too, if you kind of hover over that, Monet, both her videos are there. Yep. So the ones that we played, earlier, and then also to another reel, because Cynthia came in to her event the day before, and they went to the Mary J. Blige concert. So talking about women empowerment, right? So those two were hanging out at the Mary J. Blige uh, concert, and so that video was there. That's what that little, when you hover over that, you'll see Cynthia and Allison at that concert. That was kind of like a fun thing that they did the day before. The next person is Hester Wheeler, and Hester also is good friends with Allison. He is the an activist, an advocate, a mentor, entrepreneurship, and he's held positions as executive director of the NAACP. You see him a lot on the PBS station here, talking about African American studies and kind of like a Dr. Boyce Watkins in a way, JJ. It's like he gives you the high level view about what's really going on in terms of systemic racism and its impact, even though, on us today. And I always say, once people know their history, they kind of can understand what they could do in the future. So that's one of the things that Hester talks about. And he also had a big major milestone. He turned, I want to say 69, almost 70, but he just got his bachelor's degree. And he was taking classes at Wayne State University. So he just had that. So he spoke at the graduation and that kind of thing. He's an amazing speaker. His video was there as well. But he also too is a member of the Black Speakers Network. So he's always NAACP, Black Speakers Network. He's always going to be down with the people. So he is walking his talk, and he just finished his degree. So I'm so proud of Hester as well. He does blogs, he does op-eds, but really he operates a property management company as well. So JJ, that might be somebody that you need to speak to, because I know you have a call for speakers for the event. He would be a good one. Oh my goodness, he would be a good one to really to speak at the Juneteenth event as well. This article here, Small Biz Lady, that's Melinda Emerson, had to have somebody in here talking about small business for Small Business Month, and it definitely was her. But it talks about 10 tips to be a sought after professional speaker. She lays it out. I mean, she was like, how many words is it? I said, well, it can't be like a book, Melinda. So she gave us 10 tips. One of it is discover your unique voice, master your craft, create original high value content, network with purpose. And even too, a lot of speakers should go to other speaking conferences as well, like Legacy, JuneteenthLegacy.com, network with purpose, speak with passion, which is obviously, JJ does that, build a powerful online presence. That's one of the things I help people with to get that SEO game up. Know your audience. That's really key. That should be number one, know your audience. Position yourself as a thought leader, and then harness the power of storytelling, and then keep learning and growing. And that's why being part of Black Speakers Network is really, really important, because Brian Oles always gives us a lot of resources and conferences and opportunities to learn about not just speaking, but about the speaking business. Actually, we have our book too called Speak Up, which I don't have handy here, but he wrote a book. George Fraser did the foreword, and Les Brown did the afterword. But it's a good book. It's available on blackspeakersnetwork.com as well. The next page here talks about Allison went to Michigan State University. So this is one of the professors here. The next page is Dr. Pirro, and he talks about Forever on the Path. And this is really talking about Blacks that went to Michigan State University, the Black experience at Michigan State University. This book is like a textbook. It's $50, but it's like a textbook, and he teaches from this at Michigan State University. But it is powerful. It's for anyone who's interested in the dynamics of race and education in America, not just Michigan State. He happens to be there, but he really talks about the the enduring impact of Black excellence on American society. So that particular book, Forever on the, didn't need another speaker. He, JJ, I'm like lining up your people here, but he is really amazing. He's amazing. He's part of the staff at MSU, and really, the book really chronicles the challenges and the triumphs of the first Black students and their pivotal roles in the civil rights movement and beyond. And that's one of the things that Dr. Pirro talks about. Sharice McAdoo, who is also amazing young lady. I'd say young lady. She's been in business since 2017. She's only 29 years old, but she is doing the thing. She's the one that actually did some of the recap reels for Allison Vaughn. So she's worked at LinkedIn, she's worked at Google. Now she has her own digital marketing company. And one of the things that she's really passionate about is purpose-driven marketing, what she calls it. So she likes doing work with companies that have a bigger purpose, that want to help the community. So her purpose-driven marketing is what she says. So she works with a lot of nonprofits and ministries as well. So I love this young lady, and she talks about and she has a book, a podcast called God Bless My Brand. God Bless My Brand. That's the name. That's the name of her podcast. So yeah, that girlfriend is doing it. Okay, used to work at Google, right? So, and then the next page is something that's coming up in August. Is Shayla Atkins. Love this lady here. She's a leadership expert, organizational development strategist, author, and conference speaker. And you can read about Shayla here and scan that code. But hers is coming up in Texas as well in August. And she really helps people really just unlock their leadership capacity. And a lot of times she talks a little bit about that whole, we don't call it DEI anymore, but it's workplace culture transformations. Okay. So we've got to like use different language now because of the climate that we're in. And then obviously the last page, right at time here, is this one. Yes. So in case you couldn't remember all the things that we were saying, you can go to this website, JuneteenthLegacy.com. And there, if you hover over that, there's a video there of JJ as well. Yeah. I think that video, if you can you hit that a little bit, click that open a little bit, Monet. What video? I think this is the video where we were. Yeah, that was our interview where we did. Yes. So that was the one that we did. So we can kind of hear you for a full hour. For a full hour on what it is that Juneteenth is about. And that was the one that was hot. That conversation was so amazing. So with that, we are at the end. I want to just remind people to go to Juneteenth legacy.com. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Monet. JuneteenthLegacy.com for the month of June. JJ is going to be on the cover, but the month of May, happy Mother's Day, is Allison Vaughn, and she is doing the thing. 25 years, and happy Small Business Month, National Small Business Month to everyone. And make sure you go and check it all out. Speakersmagazine.com. Want to get featured in the June issue? JJ's on the cover. It's going to be everywhere. It'll get in the hands of George Fraser and all these other folks. So you want to make sure you're in there. I always say those that show up, go up. So with that, I'm Pam Perry, and I'm out. God bless you. Have a good weekend, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.